You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Today on our Weight Loss Wednesday show, I am guaranteeing you that today is going to be one of the most eye-opening shows on how to lose weight, transform your body like never before. I'm telling you, this year in 2017, we're going to pull out all the stops. I'm going to show you exactly how you can use the old brilliance of things like Ayurvedic medicine, of true traditional naturopathy, as well as traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Taoist medicine, all of those great Eastern-based philosophies. But also, how do we combine that with true state-of-the-art lab testing and functional medicine to take it to that next level? I'm telling you, this is the future of medicine, and the future of medicine is really here. Will it be able to be improved even more in the future? Absolutely. But why wait? I mean, we can get the results right now. So that's the amazing thing. Today I want to talk about, now this isn't just about weight loss today, so I don't want you to get, too stuck in that position and in that mindset. The reason is this. I can guarantee you this. If your body was truly healthy, like if you tried nutrition plans, you've tried exercise, and you still really can't keep the weight off, that's not really a calorie in, calorie out issue. It's simply not. And the reason why we all know this is because you have friends, there's no doubt about it, who can eat twice the amount of food that you eat and they don't gain weight, or they don't seem to put on any body fat, and they absolutely are totally fine with that. So what we're looking at is really a metabolic-based issue, and it has so much more to do with hormones than it has to do with calories or exercise or any of those things. Those are important. Don't get me wrong. Like, those are prerequisites. You have to eat well and you have to move your body. I'm not saying that, but what happens when that's not enough, right? Like, what else are you going to do? Well, the truth is this, that the only reason that your body is holding on to this excess body fat is there's a metabolic-based issue, meaning that there's some type of response, whether it's inflammatory, whether it's hormonal, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment, that's causing your body to be in almost what we'll call a survival-based mode, right? You've probably heard that before, but what it really means is that it's imbalanced right now, and it's holding on to this body fat for specific reasons. Now, one of those reasons can actually be toxic, meaning that your body, when it gets all of these now 100,000 chemicals, man-made chemicals, synthetic chemicals in the environment, when those come into our body through our skin, through either just touching like the flame retardant seat covers, or through the dyes in our clothes, or through touching pesticides, or through the air, anything like that, right? When it comes into our blood, our body has to do something with that. If it cannot eliminate it right away, it's very easy for it to put it into those adipose tissues. That means your fat cells. That causes your fat cells to actually expand, to blow up with water. So what that happens is you actually start to look bigger. You start to put on more weight. And that is an actual toxicity-based response. Now, we've talked a lot about detox in the past. Today, we're going to talk about hormones. So here's the thing. If your hormones are not balanced, whether they're high or low, doesn't even matter as much. Balanced is really what it's all about. Unless they're balanced, you're going to struggle with weight your entire life. So why don't we just talk about it now? Why don't we figure this out once and for all in 2017 and just get it done? And so there's a lab, and I'm going to teach you all about all the different things in this lab. You can run the lab or not, but you have to know about why this particular company would choose these things to run, because these have to be balanced within your body. So the lab is a weight management profile, or a weight loss test. That's what we just call it, weight loss testing, right? Because you're trying to figure out this. Why can't I lose weight, or why can't I keep it off? Why am I so susceptible to putting on body fat, whether it's around the hips, whether it's around the belly? They can mean different things. Like, for example, if you put on a lot of weight right around your belly, your midsection, right? That typically has to do with a higher cortisol-based production. That means your body goes into this fight or flight-based mode, and with inflammation as well, and you start to store the weight around the middle. I'm not going to get into why exactly that happens today, but as your body starts to get stressed, it actually starts to increase blood sugar levels as well as inflammation. Of course, we don't burn off that sugar because we're not actually in a fight. We're not actually running from anything. We're just stressed, whether we're in traffic, whether we're at work, whether our kids are screaming, whatever it might be. So another way, though, is a lot of times you'll see mainly in women, but sometimes in guys, start to put on more weight around the hips. And usually that has to do with more of a higher estrogen-based issue in terms of estrogen to progesterone. And I'll talk about that as well on today's show. So again, where you put on weight does matter. All right. So now one of the things that I like to talk about is this. The first thing we need to look at for both men and women is this sometimes too high a level of estrogen in the body. Now, I run so many labs. I run lots and lots and lots of labs. So what I find is this, is most women have fairly normal estrogen levels. They really do. We tested around day 21 of their cycle. If women are menopausal, postmenopausal, then we can really run it any time we would like. If symptoms are higher still during one part of the month, we'll certainly run it during then. But what I find is this, women totally have normal estrogen levels. This goes with infertility-based issues as well. So please pay attention to this issue and also pass on that knowledge, because that's what it's all about. Pass it on to a friend if they have an issue with this. So what I find is this, normal estrogen, but actually low progesterone, and those two have to stay within balance. Not a 1-to-1. I'm not saying that. They're not 1-to-1. It's more like a 33-to-1 progesterone to estrogen, depending, of course, on the lab that you run. But the lab I use, that's the ratio. So what I'm looking at is this, I'm looking at, okay, normal estrogen, but low progesterone. Well, what does that mean? Well, it actually means estrogen dominance. That means too high an estrogen response, or it looks like high estrogen, even though estrogen is normal. And the reason is it's not balanced with progesterone. Well, what could that lead to? Well, that can lead to poor mood. It can lead to acne-based issues, so skin-based issues. It can lead to digestive-based issues. But one of the big things is, and one of the big things that we're not talking about is just a lot of weight gain, especially with increased levels of cortisol because of the increases in estrogen, and also within water retention. So that's going to make you feel more bloated. So your body starts to look softer, and that's because of those higher estrogen levels, or at least estrogen towards progesterone. Now, remember, why would we have lower progesterone? Well, typically because progesterone is a direct feeder to what's called 17-hydroxyprogesterone, which is a direct feeder to then cortisol. And cortisol is our survival hormone. So your body will never give up cortisol until the very end. It will always make sure it has enough of that. So here's the thing. Progesterone is going to be sacrificed to make more cortisol. So if we know progesterone sacrificed to make more cortisol, we need to get a hold of cortisol, which is the next hormone we have to talk about. So cortisol is used for our fight or flight, our stress, all of those things. Well, we know if we calm our stress response. Now, keep in mind, people are over-exercising. They really are. These like crazy boot camps, these really intense like ultra-long runs, all of these things, they can increase cortisol as well. So remember, anything that causes this fight or flight response is a negative in terms of you actually trying to lose weight. I know that seems counterintuitive, but it's still the truth. I'm telling you, this stuff will not be out for another decade. I do not corner the market in this information. It's not mine alone, but you're just not going to hear it too often because this is not taught in medical school, and it's really not even taught in naturopathic school as well. You learn it through outside reading, through outside clinical research, the stuff that's being done right now that won't make it to textbooks for another 10 years. That's how it works. It works that way in the fitness industry, it works that way in the nutrition and functional medicine as well. So again, listen to this part now. Next thing we want to look at is testosterone. Men and women, if your testosterone levels are too low, you're not going to be able to build that muscle tissue. You're not going to have that get up and go. You're not going to have that confidence. You're not going to have that drive. You're not going to have that ambition. You're not even going to want to exercise. You're not going to want to like take charge and do all those great things for your body. So that's super important as well. And then you want to make sure that your testosterone is not converting too high to estrogen. That could be an issue too, right? Because testosterone comes right before or can be converted to estrogen as well. Just a couple more. I don't want to get like too crazy with you, but this lab also looks at vitamin D levels. Now, one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about checking people's vitamin D is that if your vitamin D levels are too low, so right now you run a lab and the typical lab is like anywhere between 30 and 100 is okay, right? Well, that's absurd. That's an enormous frame for where your vitamin D can be. Ideal is 50 to 70, right? So that's optimal. So even if you're at 33, that doesn't mean healthy. It just means like you're not going to get, a disease because you're too low. But vitamin D, I mean, you not only do you need it to prevent bone loss and depression and cancer, you need it also for weight loss. It's part of your metabolism. Very, very hormone. Vitamin D acts so much more like a hormone than it does a vitamin, and that's why it's essential. Other things that this lab looks for as well that's really, really important to look at is you want to look at blood sugar regulation. So this is going to look at your insulin, and it's going to look at your hemoglobin A1C. Why are those so important? The reason is this. If you cannot keep your blood sugar levels low enough, you are going to tap into sugar for fuel instead of body fat, okay? Your body can burn fuel from a few different ways. It would prefer to use sugar during times of increased stress, during that fight or flight. That's why we need to calm that down. And when your body's more calm, it can start to tap into more body fat. But it can't do that if you have upregulated or higher blood sugar levels. So that works at a cellular level, being able to actually have those cell receptors to take sugar into those cells, not keep it in the bloodstream. And so we look at that with this lab as well. But also just really important is looking at that first morning blood sugar level. If your levels are not below 95 when you wake up in the morning, good luck trying to burn body fat while you sleep. And that's really, really important. Honestly, all of these things do matter. So when I look at all of these hormones and more on this weight loss test, I say, okay, one more I have to mention. Sorry, one more before I wrap it up is thyroid. So a lot of people talk about thyroid in terms of energy, right? Low energy, kind of low mood, apathy, all sorts of different reasons. So I'm not going to get into all those reasons because it's not our thyroid-based show. But one of the reasons is if your thyroid is not at an adequate level, you're simply not going to keep your metabolism boosted. So your thyroid, as a lot of people do not know though, is interconnected. It's intertwined and related with the adrenal glands. So if your cortisol levels are not in proper balance, your thyroid is actually going to be downregulated because you're in survival-based mode. So your body actually starts to block TSH, so that's thyroid-stimulating hormone, for becoming T4. Okay. And T4 is then blocked by a cortisol release called glucocorticoids from becoming the active, usable form T3. And that's about 70 to 80% of all your thyroid. And that's inside those red blood cells. So to make a really complicated topic really easy, what it means is this. Too stressed, hormones dysregulated, affects the thyroid, not the other way around. Your thyroid always should be looked at in the greater picture of things. That's why when people go to see a thyroid-based specialist or an endocrinologist, and they're only talking about your thyroid and not your adrenals and not your blood sugar, not everything else, well, you're not looking at the whole picture. Very few people are destined to a life of low thyroid. That's simply not the case at all. And the majority of people I know don't even need medication for Hashimoto's because their body goes into remission, which I'm putting in air quotes right now, which means you no longer have it by regulating the body, regaining balance, right? So to keep today's show, because I'm really, for this new year, I'm really trying to keep my shows to that 12-minute, right around there, 12 to 15-minute maximum mark, so it's easy listening on a daily basis. Because, again, every topic is different. Every day is different, so please do tune in. So what it means is this. If you're trying to lose weight, and your body's not regulated, hopefully you can hear by now all of the different hormones that need to be regulated. If they are not regulated, it is not your fault by not eating the proper calories, even because your body can sometimes crave so many more carbohydrates, right? Because it needs that for that short-term fuel source. And your body might not be motivated, or the exercise might not even be working. That's why what I want for you is for you to be able to achieve your results this year in a much more easy manner, right? You don't always want to struggle all the time. And so a lab like this, a weight loss lab like this, if you can do it, can really make the difference in helping you to achieve your goals. Okay, so let's pull this all together. I want to leave you with always an action tip, like what can you take from this show? So right now, if you're able to run the weight loss test, go ahead and do that. What you're going to do is you're going to get a simple test that you can do right at home. It's simply a blood spot test where you just do a little finger poke, and that takes your thyroid, and it takes your blood sugar and a bunch of other levels. And then you have this little saliva tube, and you're going to just spit some saliva into that, and that's going to check your cortisol levels. Amazing tests. These have been around for decades. They work phenomenally well. Every functional medicine doctor uses these in their practice because it looks at things from a subclinical level, not a disease level, but subclinical, meaning like what leads to disease, what leads to poor health, right? So if you're going to do that, highest recommendation, you send that into the lab. We send it to you. You send it to the lab. You get my recommendations. I read your lab report, and I send back my recommendations to you, nutritional supplements, food plans, all that, and you get a call with my holistic health coach and nutritionist. So absolutely fantastic. Now, let's say you're not going to do that. What can you do? Well, what you need to do is you need to start looking at how you can down-regulate stress in your life, because sometimes stress is the factor, not one of the factors, but the factor why some people aren't able to keep the weight off. Now, how can you do that? Well, you can start to do that by really simplifying your nutrition, doing a normal exercise program, like not killing yourself with that either, starting to do a 5-minute meditation in the morning, starting to get better sleep at night. You can do a detox, a 7, 14, 21 day, just to kind of calm the body down. What a detox does is not only does it remove all these toxins from your body, but the other thing it does is this. It teaches you that your whole life is not about food, that your whole day is not about planning your meals. It starts to simplify the way you look at the world. When you can simplify it, again, you can really take those stress levels down. All right, my time is up for today's show. So what I'm going to say is this. If you ever have any questions, of course, you know you can ask me. So you can simply go to StephenCabral.com/Ask Cabral. And today, just go to the show notes page. So just go to StephenCabral.com/podcast, and you'll be able to find today's podcast. What I recommend is checking that out. We'll put a link right up to the weight loss test. And of course, if you go to the StephenCabral.com/store and just click on weight loss, you'll be able to find this lab test as well. Hopefully that made sense. And as always, if I can help answer any questions, please let me know what they are, and I will absolutely do that for you. And if you can pass this show on to anyone else you believe it will help, I would really appreciate that. Have a great day, everyone. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or unbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rain barrel.